So today we'll be discussing about elastomers, which are also called rubber. So just a moment, please. So okay, so let's talk about elastomers, which are also called rubber. So these elastomers or rubber, they are often used interchangeably. You can also call rubber, or you can also use the term elastomers. And if I want to define a elastomer, then it's a kind of material which is being capable of recovering substantially in shape and size after a load is removed. No? Let's say if there is this material and it is under this tensile load. So after applying this tensile load, let the material stretches significantly, and then when we remove this load, it will come back to its original position. Dimensionally, it comes back to its original position when the load is removed. Okay? Then this kind of material is generally called elastomer or rubber. And when I say that this recovers its original shape, it only means that the dimensions and not all other properties. So this material is capable of recovering after the load is removed. Uh, if you see this term elastomer, they are made of these two words, that is elastic and mer. Mer is, the molecular unit, single molecular unit is called mer. Elastic is something which can be recovered. So based on these two terms, the name has been given as elastomers. And there are a lot of plastics or amorphous polymers which come under this category. If I want to talk about certain characteristics of these kind of plastics which are elastomers, then I can say they are fully amorphous. So although most of the polymers are amorphous, but the degree of amorphicity is too high. Like glass is also 100% amorphous. Rubbers are also very much amorphous, not 100%, but they have a very good high degree of amorphicity. They have low TG. TG means glass transition temperature. It also means the temperature at which the material starts fading away. It starts losing its color and some tough properties, some properties, mechanical properties. So it basically converts into glassy structure or viscous structure at glass transition temperature. So most of the rubbers have very low glass transition temperatures. Uh, they have this also characteristics ability to undergo this large elastic deformation. This deformation, it means this change in length is very, very large. And before rupture, okay, before they are normally soft and their elastic modulus is also low. Like for most of the metals, the elastic modulus is very high, but rubbers or elastomers, they do not require much force uh, for a deformation to start. Okay, so they have very low elastic modulus. When I say low, it simply means that I'm comparing them with metals. The structure of these kind of materials are highly kinked. When I say kinked, it means that the molecular structure is highly twisted. Kinked simply means that it is twisted, or you can say curled. No, there is no linear structure there. They are a kind of thermosets, you can say. And the degree of this cross linking, like thermosets are mostly, they are cross linked structure, they are not linear structure, while thermoplastics are linear structures. So it is not that all the rubbers are thermosets, but most of the rubbers are thermosets. Some of the rubbers, especially the natural rubbers, they are thermoplast also because their molecule remain in linear fashion. However, the commercial rubber or elastomers, they are highly kinked, they are twisted in molecular structure, and the cross linking, the degree of cross linking can be increased. So if you have ever seen a tire, so this tire is actually made by a process called vulcanization. And this actually takes place at a very high temperature. What is this vulcanization? It means simply means that addition of sulfur. So when we melt the material at very high temperature, we add some kind of sulfur. Then this process is called vulcanization. Vulcan is actually a Roman term for fire. Vulcan means fire in Roman language. Okay. So, or god of fire, not fire, we should say god of fire. It's very similar to Agni Dev. So, addition of rubber with this sulfur was, and this process was first discovered by Charles Goodyear. And now you know why Goodyear tires are, where these Goodyear tires came from. So this Charles Goodyear first observed this process. He added sulfur in some kind of natural rubbers at high temperature in order to get uh, more strength, you know, better mechanical properties as it was required in tires. In and around 1839, so Charles Goodyear then started producing tires, and which is now a very big company. If you have seen tires, they they are actually made of one very giant molecule. So this vulcanization produces molecules which are giant in nature. Now, there is a monomer, then there is a macromolecule, and then there is this giant molecule. Giant molecule is very long. Each molecular structure which repeats itself is extremely long. And if we heat uh, this this rubber, you can say, after this vulcanization process, if we heat, it cannot be softened or reshaped, but possesses sufficient mechanical properties in order to hold various kinds of loads. Uh, the hardness of elastomers can be measured using a instrument which is called durometer. Okay, this is for measuring the hardness. So the hardness of this elastomers, this actually increases with the degree of cross-linking of the molecular chain. That is also the reason that vulcanization, what it does is that when we add sulfur, it increases the degree of cross-linking. And as we increase the degree of cross-linking, the hardness increases. Okay. So the hardness increases with increasing cross-linking. Apart from this sulfur, also a variety of additives can be added with these elastomers to impart certain specific properties, as it is done with polymers. In polymers, we generally add like plasticizers, various blends, colorants to impart certain properties. Similar things can also be added into the rubber in order to get specific properties. These elastomers, they have a very high range of applications, especially in high friction and non-skid surfaces. So most of these applications non-skid surfaces and high friction. So wherever we require very high degree of friction, rubbers or elastomers become the first choice. They also have very good degree of protection against corrosion and abrasion. Okay. They are also they also have good electrical insulation properties. And typical applications, they include tires, footwears, various gaskets, linings, seals, printing rolls, and floorings. One most important characteristic of elastomers is their hysteresis loss. What is this hysteresis loss? Is it can be explained using this term. So when we apply some load on this elastomers, and let's say at this point we remove the load so that it come back to its original position, but it does not follows the same path. It come back to its original position, but the path it follows is different, and due to this it the material actually absorbs some energy which is equivalent to this curve, and this energy is called hysteresis loss. This is in the process of stretching or when we apply the tensile load. Now this energy which is actually either get stored into the material. Now, most of the time what it does is that it increases the temperature of of the material. So this mechanical energy gets converted into the thermal energy. So I can just write here that the mechanical energy which has been invested in stretching is converted into heat. This property is this hysteresis loss is actually desirable for many applications, especially wherever the vibration is required to be absorbed. You know, this is very desirable property. Which is also called damping. Or if you want to reduce the sound effect, you know, so this also absorbs the sound waves. So the process is also called sound deadening. So this hysteresis gives rubber the capacity to dissipate energy, damp vibrations, and absorb this shock load. So as you have already seen automobile tires and these vibration dampeners for machinery, they are all made of materials very similar to rubber or elastomers. Uh, there are mainly three kinds of elastomers available in the market. One is natural rubber, another one is synthetic rubber, and another one is silicons. Some people actually use polyurethane, which is nothing but also a kind of synthetic rubber, but sometimes they are kept outside of synthetic rubbers. So the base for natural rubber is latex. If you have seen latex coming out from the trees of the rubber, latex is nothing. I don't know if you have seen. There are a lot of videos available on the YouTube, and you can go. Latex are nothing but they are a milk-like sap. You know, they are white in color and they are a highly viscous fluid having white color, and they are obtained from the inner bark of a tropical tree. तो जो रबर के पेड़ होते हैं, अगर आप उनमें थोड़ा सा ऐसा कट लगाएंगे तो दे विल गिव यू दिस वाइट कलर sap, you know, they are latex and they come from this inner bark of this tropical tree, and this natural rubber has a good resistance to abrasion, fatigue, and they have very high frictional properties, but their resistance to heat is very low. No? Natural rubbers, they do not survive in sunlight for long. So you can just write that they have low resistance to heat. Also, they also absorb oils, you know, and sunlight. And due to these restrictions, their application is restricted to applications like eraser. The eraser you use is generally made of natural rubber. There are no additives. And then seals, shoe heels, sometimes couplings, although we must take care that they are not good for heat. Wherever there is a lot of heat generation, we should not use the natural rubber. Various gaskets and mountings, they are all made of natural rubber. Wherever the heat is not being generated. About synthetic rubbers, uh, compared with the natural rubber, these synthetic rubbers have improved resistance to heat, oils like gasolines and chemicals at very high temperature range. Okay, so you can just write here that improved resistance to heat, gasoline, and chemicals. So these synthetic rubbers, they include added natural rubber, then butyl styrene, butadiene, polybutadiene, and ethylene polymers. Okay, mostly synthetic rubbers are butadiene based. Okay, uh, butyl, butadiene, and polybutadiene. In the market, the synthetic rubber is available by the name of neoprene, then nitrile rubber, sometimes silicone and polyurethane are also come into this category of synthetic rubber. And synthetic rubbers are mainly used for tires. Okay, or various shock absorbers, seals, wherever the high temperature requirement is there, where the natural rubber may not work, synthetic rubbers are of first choice. Silicones are also a kind of synthetic rubber, but their application is so wide that people generally keep it into a different category. So silicon, the temperature, working temperature range of silicon is up to 588 Kelvin, which is normally too high. For if you see the common plastics, common polymers, thermosets and thermoplasts, the working temperature remains well below 450 Kelvin. But here it offers the working temperature range up to 588 Kelvin. But at the same time, although their resistance to heat is very high, there are other properties such as strength, resistance to wear, and gasolines are typically inferior to when compared to other polymers. Okay, so I just write low strength, resistance to gasolines, and resistance to wear. Typical applications, they include electrical switches. In fact, a lot of electronic applications, uh, cable joint applications, they all use silicon as one of the component. You know? So electrical insulations, switches, and various electronics component, because most of these electronics and electrical and electronic components require a lot of heat to sustain, and so silicon becomes the uh, finest choice. Polyurethane also comes under the category of rubber because they also can return to their original shape when we remove the load, and they deform significantly before rupture. So polyurethane, it 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 has a very high strength, and stiffness, and many other mechanical properties. They are very good in mechanical properties. The abrasion resistance. So the typical applications of polyurethane is in flooring, in seals, which require more force, and gaskets, various cushions. If you have various rubber diaphragms, then they are made of polyurethane. A lot of auto body parts and bumpers, they are all made of polyurethanes. जो रास्ते में आपने बम्पर्स देखे हैं वो सभी ज़्यादातर वो पॉलीयूरीथेन के ही बने होते हैं, बिकॉज they have very high degree of friction, they can take a lot of load, they can also sustain a very good amount of temperature. Now let's talk about the most important kind of plastics which have recently gained a wide degree of application, and they are nothing but reinforced plastics. They are also called composites or composite plastic. They are a kind of engineered material, and they are defined as a combination of two or more chemically distinct and insoluble phases whose properties and structural performance are far superior to those which are constituent. Okay, let me just write it. So reinforced plastics, RP, are a kind of engineered material which are made by combination of two or more chemically distinct insoluble phases whose properties and structural performance are superior to those of constituents acting independently. तो ऐसा मान लीजिए कि ये दो या उससे ज़्यादा तरह की प्लास्टिक्स को मिलाने से बनता है, और दोनों को मिलाने के बाद जो प्लास्टिक बनता है उसका जितना भी मैकेनिकल प्रॉपर्टीज या इलेक्ट्रिकल प्रॉपर्टीज होता है वो उसके कंस्टिट्यूएंट मटेरियल से बहुत ही ज़्यादा अच्छा होता है, फार फार सुपीरियर. सो although the plastics possesses mechanical properties, but they are very very inferior. If you have seen most of the plastics, their mechanical properties are of very low quality, so they can get broken very easily. They cannot sustain too much load when compared to metals and alloys. So these properties, they can be improved by embedding certain reinforcement of various kinds to produce reinforced plastics. आप ऐसा भी मान सकते हैं कि मेटल्स एंड एलॉयस को टक्कर देने के लिए ऐसे प्लास्टिक्स बनाए गए जो मैकेनिकल प्रॉपर्टीज के मामले में मेटल्स को भी टक्कर दे सकते हैं या उनसे बहुत ही ज़्यादा हो सकते हैं. सो इस तरह की प्लास्टिक को हम लोग रीइंफोर्स प्लास्टिक्स बोलते हैं या कंपोजिट प्लास्टिक्स भी बोल सकते हैं. And these reinforced plastics have certain kind of reinforcement which actually improve the strength, stiffness, creep resistance, But most importantly, their strength to weight ratio and stiffness to weight ratio is very high. Okay. For metals, it is not so high. So most of the metals, for achieving high uh, strength, we have to put a lot of weight. No? These reinforced plastics nowadays have a wide degree of applications, including aircraft, space, vehicles, pipings, you know, or we can write offshore structural pipings, various electronics, automobiles, boats, ladders. You know, GFRP and CFRP have become so much household material that almost every kind of applications can be made by these materials, from your cookware, from your kitchen appliances, to your sports appliances, to your footwear. All the materials are now, all the applications which were earlier made by simple plastics and they didn't withstand with high mechanical force are now being made by these reinforced plastics. If you have seen in old days what people used to do, you know, I really don't know what they say in Gujarati, but in Hindi we say madaha. So what they used to do is that they used to mix clay with some straws. You know, the straws they came from rice field, you know, rice paddies, and various other bamboos. So they used to mix these bamboos or straws from rice field into the clay in order to get more mechanical strength and in order to build their home, which was actually made by the clay. This clay. So this was the oldest application of reinforcement of the composites, and these were used as before as 4000 BC. So these straws, if you, I don't know if you have really seen, you know, but so what they used to do is that they used to have some straws uh, in different orientation like this and this in order to get the strength into this clay. So these straws they act as the reinforcing fibers and this clay is actually called matrix. ना? यहाँ पे जो clay होगा उस material को बोलते हैं matrix and this straws are called reinforcements. So these straws they act as reinforcing fibers and this clay as a matrix. Uh, Another example of this composite material is reinforcing of masonry and concrete with iron rod. तो आपने शायद देखा होगा ना जब ढलैया करते हैं ना with cement. So what they do is that they lay down some iron rods, है ना, सरिया, into some particular uh, manner, and then they pour this uh, cement. Okay, so here the cement works as the matrix material, and the iron rods, they work as reinforcement. They this concrete itself is a composite material. You can assume that concrete has cement and sand and some kind of stones, you know. So this by itself is a composite material. Uh, in reinforced concrete, these steel rods impart this necessary tensile strength to composites. Okay, the normally available concrete has some kind of cement, gravel, or stones, you know, and then sand. But what they have is that they have very good uh, ability to compressive loads, but they cannot take tensile load. In order to improve the tensile load, we add tensile strength. We add these steel rods or iron rods. So they do impart this necessary tensile strength. And since concrete is a brittle and generally has very little or no useful stretching properties, you know, but these iron rods, they impart the qualities so that they can be stretched without before rupturing. Okay, so that's all for today. Next class we'll be discussing more about these reinforced plastics, like some GFRP, CFRP, and the orientation of these fibers. Do you have any question?